Ronald Acuña is back, and it went exactly the way you thought it would. Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Tuesday, May 27th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Chris Towers. Hope everybody enjoyed the long Memorial Day weekend. Today on the show, buckle up. We have 4 days of baseball to recap. We had a big prospect promotion, more injuries, waiver wire moves, and much more. But Chris, I am making an executive decision to just lead today's podcast with two of baseball's best. Ronald Acuña, are you kidding me? He homered on the very first pitch that he saw from Nick Pivetta Friday, and it was a moonshot. 115.5 exit velocity, 467 feet, and then he went out and homered again on Saturday. Chris, he is back. How high did you put him in the trade chart?
Yeah, that 115.5 mile per hour batted ball, the hardest ball he's hit since that 2023 season. He didn't hit a single ball last year that hard. So hopefully that means that the Braves' decision to work him back slowly from the torn ACL, remember he got about 2 extra months of recovery relative to 2021. Hopefully that means that he's going to avoid the struggles he had that season. I moved Acuña into the top 15 overall players in both Roto and head-to-head. He's number 14 in both. And honestly, if you wanted to put him ahead of Gunnar Henderson and Freddie Freeman and Francisco Lindor, like I wouldn't really argue that strenuously. We know he has number one player upside. He has been his 2023 season, unanimous MVP, historically productive season. We know he's capable of that. The thing is, we've seen him coming back from a torn ACL. He struggled in 2021 or 2022, he struggled. And he's already talked about running less this season that he expects moving forward. He's not going to be a 70 stolen base guy. Now, he could cut his 2023 number in half and still be a 35 steal guy, which would be awesome. But it does make the margin for error a little slimmer. 2023 was a big outlier in terms of his strikeout rate. So I'm not quite ready to put Ronald Acuña in the top 5 overall, but if you were, I really wouldn't argue.
Look, man, I said this on Friday. Baseball is better when Ronald Acuña is out there and he's healthy and he's himself. Even last year before he hurt the knee, it looked like, he wasn't right. I know he dealt with some stuff in spring training too, but happy to have him back. Asked Scott a similar question on Friday, and he said he moved Acuña up to his 7th ranked outfielder. So that's behind just Judge, Tucker, Carroll, Tatis, Soto, and Mookie Betts. Just to give people some perspective on the position. But Acuña is back, and it looks like he is back to being Acuña. Want to talk about Tarik Skubal too, because, Chris, this game is just insane. A 2-hit shutout, a Maddox, less than 100 pitches. It took him only 94 pitches to throw a 2-hit shutout with 13 strikeouts, 26 whiffs, 14 of those on the changeup. And his final pitch of the game was a strikeout at 103 miles per hour. I understand that there's not really anything actionable with talking about this, but it's just one of the best starts you will ever see. And he's coming off a Cy Young season where he's managed to get better.
And especially, remember, he was like a little bit shaky the first couple of starts. He has given up 15 runs on the season now through, 11 starts? That's pretty bonkers in and of itself. 7 of those 15 runs came in his first 2 starts of the season. Sorry, 19 runs total. And 7 of them came on the first start. He also had that 5-run start against the Red Sox a couple starts ago. That is just, he is operating on a completely ridiculous level. And the 102.7 or whatever it was that was the final pitch of the start, looked easy. Like, did not look like he was like reaching back for everything he had. It just looked so fluid. He's just a remarkable pitcher. As good as Paul Skeens is, I think the people who took Paul Skeens ahead of Tarik Skubal looking pretty silly right now, because Tarik Skubal has gotten even better and Paul Skeens maybe taken like a half step back. So look, I have no idea. injuries are always a concern, right? But he is going out there and throwing his best pitch even more than he did last season. That changeup, he threw it 27% of the time last year. It's up to 32% of the time. He has a 50% whiff rate this season. That is just to throw a pitch that often and have it have a 50% whiff rate. I mean, look, his four-seamer also has a 25% whiff rate. And actually the most impressive thing might be the 25% whiff rate on the sinker, just because you don't see sinkers miss bats like that.
You don't see a lot of four-seam fastballs at 25%.
Whiff rate on a four-seamer would be pretty close to elite. And he's doing that with his sinker. So, look, I don't expect anyone to remain as dominant as Tarik Skubal has been lately. He likely finishes. We'll see if he has one more start in May, but likely finishes the month of May with 52 strikeouts to 2 walks.
My gosh. I mean, that is just absurd.
10.4 strikeouts per start in the month of May. He might make one more start. We'll see. But that is just ridiculous, man. He is, again, it's not actionable, but let's take a moment and appreciate it, because this is an elite pitcher operating at an elite level.
And I don't have Tarik Skubal on any of my fantasy teams, but I think I could speak for his fantasy managers when I say,
it's going well.
We love what you did here, bud. You don't have to throw 103 miles per hour, man.
Probably not.
You know, as cool as it is to see, like, I think you're just fine at like 97, 98, dude.
It is so wild, because remember before he had that elbow surgery, he was a pretty high prospect, and we were like interested in Tarik Skubal, but he was a pretty boring pitcher until that flexor tendon surgery. He came back, I think, was it towards the end of the 2023 season?
Yeah.
He came back, started throwing harder, and we're like, oh, okay, this guy's kind of interesting. And then, I mean, this is when we say there's no such thing as a pitching prospect, it's not just a negative thing. It's also these type of things where Zach Wheeler's another example where you just did not see this level of kind of mid-career development coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Again,
It's
was
just wild.
It really is. That was Tarik Skubal. Let's get into the biggest thing that happened this weekend, I would say, although there's a few things to talk about, but the Red Sox promoting one of their big, I guess it's a big 3 now, right? Because no more Kyle Teal, but they promoted Marcelo Mayer with Alex Bregman going on the IL. And Bregman is a huge loss. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. We'll get you some replacements on him. But Marcelo Mayer, 22 years old, a first-round pick back in 2021. We've heard the name for a long time. He was hitting well in the minors, 271 batting average, 9 home runs, 818 OPS, 62% rostered. Chris, do you think Marcelo Mayer is a must-add? How long does he stick around? What do you think?
Well, I think we can't talk about that without talking about the Bregman injury, because the quote from Bregman was, it's similar to 2021. He missed 58 games when he suffered a quad strain in 2021. Now, maybe it won't be quite that bad, but I think you have to prepare for at least a month. And that's going to give Marcelo Mayer plenty of runway. That doesn't mean he's going to...
It's May 27th, right? Second half, like post All-Star break?
It's entirely possible. Yeah, I mean, if it's as bad as 2021, yeah, that would be the timeline. You'd be looking at the second half post All-Star break. It's not necessarily guaranteed it will be that long, but it's possible. So Marcelo Mayer is going to get some runway here. He's going to get, I think, the idiom. He's going to get enough rope that, you know, he could hang himself, right? Like he's going to have an opportunity here. I don't think this is a situation where he's going to play a week and they get sent down. It's just a question of whether he hits. I think his destiny is in his hands. And it's not just the Bregman injury, right? Because you look at the middle infield in Boston. Trevor Story was a really good story for about 2 weeks at the start of the season. He's been one of the worst players in baseball since about mid-April. Trevor Story has been horrendous, and Christian Campbell hasn't been much better. I certainly expect Christian Campbell to play better. I would hope Trevor Story will as well, but there's no guarantees. And so if Marcelo Mayer, if we get to Alex Bregman being back and Marcelo Mayer looks like one of the 2 best options for one of those 2 spots, or if Christian Campbell starts playing first base. Lot of permutations this could take. I say that all to say Marcelo Mayer's got a chance to stick the rest of the way. I think he's clearly the third best of their prospects. I think Christian Campbell's a more talented player. I think Bregman Anthony's clearly a more talented player. Marcelo Mayer gives me a lot of Dansby Swanson vibes as a hitter or as an offensive player, really, where he doesn't have any obvious weaknesses in the profile. There are some questions about the hit tool. He struggled, especially like low in the zone. And that's something that could get exposed in the majors. But I think the biggest thing is he's pretty good at everything. Pretty good hit tool, good power, not like incredible power, good speed, but not incredible speed. And that's kind of, can he become more than the sum of the parts? Yeah, there's examples of guys like that. I think Kyle Tucker's kind of one of those guys where it's not like 70 grade tools across the board, but it's like he gets the most out of a 55 to 60 grade across the board. And Marcelo Mayer could turn into that. That's like the high end outcome. Or he could, struggle to make contact and not be a difference maker. I think at this point, you kind of expect that most rookies won't be difference makers immediately, but he'll get the opportunity. I think that makes him a must roster player. The fact that he's going to be playing a lot of third base and will have eligibility in 2 days, I think. Yeah, that helps because it's a lot harder to break in at shortstop than it is at third base. So I'm not expecting Marcelo Mayer to be a must start player, but certainly must roster just in case it works out.
Yeah, I was just looking at my shortstop rankings and it's still a loaded position. So kind of looked like he would slot in around 25 for me. And that's behind names like Geraldo Perdomo and Brendan Donovan, who's hitting 330, and Ezequiel Tovar, who came back, and right around Carlos Correa, who, has 2 home runs since coming off the IL. So it's not like a knock on Marcelo Mayer. It's just the position. Shortstop is a really good one. And then if it were third base, probably in like the 20 to 25 range. So behind names like Shaw and Berger and Josh Young. But once you get into like Arenado, India, I might take a shot on Marcelo Mayer over those guys just to see what we have here. But it looks like he's going to play every day. He's played every day since being called up. And like you said, I think there could be okay batting average here. Power is probably his best tool at this point. And I mean, you mentioned a left-handed hitter in Fenway. It's not the best park for
it's a tough place,
obviously. So we'll see. I mean, if he could spray the ball to all fields, obviously that would help with the green monster out there in left. Again, just want to reiterate, Bregman going down, could be out until mid-July, and we'll talk about Bregman replacements a little bit later on. But he has been, one of the best stories, one of the best players in fantasy this entire season. Before we hit our first break, a reminder to sign up for the FBT newsletter if you haven't already. If you're watching on YouTube, scan that QR code. That will take you right to the website where you can sign up for free. You'll get a newsletter delivered right to your email inbox every weekday of the baseball season. And big thanks to those watching us live. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Let's take a break, and we'll be back right after this. Welcome back in the Fantasy Baseball Today news and notes. Continuing on from the weekend, and this one kind of caught everyone by surprise, Chris. Yeah. And I understand why people are so frustrated. I too, because I have Logan Henderson on a few fantasy teams, but I get that he has options. The Brewers reinstated DL Hall from the 60-day IL, and as a result, they sent Logan Henderson back to AAA. Through 4 starts, he has a 1.71 ERA, a .95 whip, 29 strikeouts over 21 innings. I still think he's a hold in fantasy. I get that there are other names that have emerged, and you might have some decisions to make here, but it sounds like Brandon Woodruff and Jose Quintana are going to join the Brewers rotation soon enough. I've seen people on Twitter bring up that maybe it's a workload thing. He only threw 81 in the third innings last year. He's already up to 51. So incredibly frustrating. But Chris, is it just a must-hold player in Logan Henderson?
Yeah, I would think so. Look, if you're in one of the 24% of CBS fantasy leagues, and I assume higher in Yahoo or ESPN, where Ryan Weathers is available, okay, you could drop Logan Henderson for Ryan Weathers because I think the talent level is fairly similar, and Ryan Weathers is currently in the majors. But there's a really good piece on the Brewers website. One, there's a quote where, they talked to manager Pat Murphy and basically said, look, we understand why it happened and we hate it. And the quote from Pat Murphy is, I almost feel the same way sometimes. The kid has been so good. It is not a performance issue. It is not anything like that. Their bullpen has been overworked. I think they've had the most bullpen innings of any team this season, I think I saw, or one of the highest. And it basically comes down to Logan Henderson has options. Quinn Priester, if they send him down for 9 more days, they lose an option for next year. And they are trying to avoid that. I think that's as simple as it is just this is about flexibility. The fact that Brandon Woodruff and Jose Quintana are coming back does make it a little less certain that Logan Henderson will be back soon, but there's no guarantee those guys stay healthy. There's no guarantee that Aaron Civale stays healthy. There's no guarantee that any of those guys are good. And so I do think it's going to be, he's not going to get called up until June. I'll say that. It's a little joke. It's 4 days. But I don't think we're waiting until July to see Logan Henderson again. So I would try, look, this is what bench spots are for. I know people want to have bench spots that they can use, but when you have a player who's shown the upside that Logan Henderson has, that four-seamer and changeup combo has looked really good. When he's thrown the slider and cutter, there have been times when they've looked pretty good as well. I think he's looked too impressive to drop.
Agreed. So yes, again, Logan Henderson option down to the minors, but try your best to hold on to him if you can. Bunch of players went on the IL since Friday. Michael King is the headliner here with right shoulder inflammation. Was reading more about this. Apparently he just slept on it wrong, and that's just didn't feel right. And so they're opting to play it safe here. Hopefully that's all it is because, contract year, and Michael King's just really important for fantasy. He was ranked as a top 12 starting pitcher by all three of us. Miguel Amaya went on the IL with a left oblique strain. Ramon Laureano with a left ankle sprain. Gio Urshela with a left hamstring. Jacob Young with a left shoulder AC joint sprain. Jock Peterson with a fractured right hand. Those were the names that we lost to the IL this weekend, along with Alex Bregman, unfortunately. It appears that Jacob deGrom was bothered by a finger issue on Monday. He allowed 2 earned runs over 5 1/3, but had 0 strikeouts for the first time in 229 career starts. And I saw afterwards, he said that he had a hot spot on one of his fingers, but it wasn't a blister. So the fact that this isn't, arm related is a win, I think, Chris, but it was a weird start.
It was weird. Yeah. There didn't seem to be too much concern. He didn't leave with a trainer. I saw very few quotes even about the finger. So I'm hoping that it's just a coincidence. The stuff looked fine. I mean, it was down like a 0.5 mile per hour on all his pitches, but that doesn't seem too concerning. I distinctly remember him having a start like this in 2020. He only had 1 strikeout in 2 innings. He left after 40 pitches, and that was like actually much more worrisome in the context. His next start, I think he had 14 strikeouts. I think he had 10 in the one after that. I think he had 51 combined swinging strikes in the next 2 starts. As long as Jacob deGrom's healthy, he's looked enough like himself that I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm a little concerned that he's not healthy, but I don't have a good reason to be. That's just me being a worrier.
All right, Yordan Alvarez is taking part in baseball activities, but manager Joe Espada said he won't put a specific game or day for Alvarez to be activated. Mike Trout is expected to resume running the bases at some point this week. Logan Gilbert completed a simulated game on Friday and could need multiple rehab outings before he returns from that right elbow flexor strain. Corey Seager faced live pitching Saturday and is expected to be activated during the Rangers homestand, which spans this entire week. So it's a pretty big range. We don't know exactly when he's going to play. Some Yankees updates. Jazz Chisholm could be cleared to begin a rehab assignment this week. Giancarlo Stanton will likely take BP over the next 2 weeks and is getting close to going on a rehab assignment himself. Cole Reagans has been playing catch and is expected to return from the IL when first eligible on June 1st. So that's great. Shota Imanaga is slated to throw a bullpen on Tuesday. The expectation is that he will not return until well into June. Kyle Finnegan was unavailable Saturday due to shoulder fatigue. Jorge Lopez picked up his first save of the season in that game. So feels like a pretty clear replacement. Obviously, it's worrisome. Like, none of us expected Kyle Finnegan to be awesome, but the past 2 years, he's just racked up so many saves that he's become really valuable for fantasy. So
yeah, absolutely. He's not a great pitcher, but he's been a really valuable fantasy option. So hopefully it's nothing serious, because I do think Jorge Lopez is a significant downgrade.
Yes, agreed. Shane McClanahan threw from 90 feet on Friday. He had been throwing from 60 feet in early May, but began to feel some discomfort. So had a little bit of a setback there, but looks like he is back to throwing. The Rangers dropped Marcus Semien to 9th in their lineup, which is just crazy to think about. Like, there's still a pretty big amount on that contract, right? I'm not imagining that, Chris. Like, I
think it's like 4 or 5 more years, if I'm remembering correctly. It was a pretty big deal.
Yeah, so not looking great. Jordan Westberg is on his way to AAA to begin a rehab assignment. He's been out since April 26th.
Only 3 more years after this on the Semien deal. Only 3 years and $72 million. That's fine.
Jordan Westberg has been out since April 26th with a left hamstring strain. The A's optioned J.J. Bleday to AAA and designated Seth Brown for assignment. Sean Manaea will throw a live batting practice Thursday, his first time facing hitters since going on the IL with a strained left oblique. He's 63% rostered and was great in the second half last year. If you have a spot to stash Sean Manaea. Frankie Montas started a rehab assignment at High A on Saturday. He is only 7% rostered. I think much less interest here, Chris, but do you want to stash Frankie Montas, or not really a priority?
If you have unlimited IL spots, I'm not saying I'm not at all interested in Frankie Montas. The Mets have earned some benefit of the doubt, but yeah, it's not a guy you need to stash.
Ha-Sung Kim of the Rays, I'm going to have to make that distinction a lot moving forward, started a rehab assignment at AAA on Monday. He's been rehabbing from off-season shoulder surgery. This is the Ha-Sung Kim that was on the Padres the past couple of years. He did have shoulder surgery. We know he has a little bit of power, good amount of speed, 17% rostered, and a name you can look to stash in leagues with middle infield spots. So, 12-team roto leagues or deeper. And the Nationals promoted outfield prospect Dalen Lyle on Friday. He's 22 years old, a second-round pick back in 2021. This year at AAA, he was hitting .337 with 3 homers, 9 steals, .892 OPS. Makes a ton of contact, lots of line drives. He's only 2% rostered. Feels like just NL only for now, Chris, but any shallower interest in that, in a Dalen Lyle?
Not really. There's a little bit of stolen base and batting average upside because he does make a lot of contact. He's run strikeout rates below 17 or 18% basically at every level since 2023. He stole 25 bases last season. Doesn't seem like there's a lot of pop there. So probably just NL only and deep leagues.
All right, let's get into the waiver wire, and we do have to talk about Alex Bregman replacements because I mentioned that is a big loss. I mean, even now on Tuesday, he's a top 30 player in fantasy this season. It's just such a big loss. He was looking awesome in Boston. Some names in shallower leagues. Matt Shaw has looked good since rejoining the Cubs. In 7 games, he's hitting .346, 5 doubles, 2 steals, .952 OPS, all the way up to 78% rostered. And Jake Berger is the other name. He continues to hit well. 16 games since returning to the Rangers. .269 batting average, 4 home runs, and OPS around 900. I've asked you this question a lot recently, Chris, but I'll ask you one more time. Matt Shaw or Jake Berger?
I think I have Berger ranked ahead of Shaw. That sounds like what I would do, but I think it's very close. I think they're both guys who should be rostered in at least every roto league because of those deeper lineups. Yeah, that's what I have it as. I have Berger ahead of Shaw, but it's fairly close. So yeah.
All right, some slightly deeper leagues. We looking at Alex Bregman replacements. Miguel Vargas has performed well in May, hitting 265 with 6 home runs and an 892 OPS. Brett Beatty continues to impress. He hit a home run on Friday, then 3 more hits on Saturday. He has started 7 straight, and in 17 games since being recalled by the Mets, 280. I'm watching the Yankees-Angels game right now in the background. It just ended. But Brett Beatty, 17 games since being recalled, 280 batting average, 5 home runs, and a 908 OPS for him. And Addison Barger has also looked pretty good for the Blue Jays. Last 16 games, hitting over 300, 2 homers, 1 steal, an OPS near 900, and hitting the ball really, really hard during that time. Chris, how would you rank Vargas, Beatty, and Addison Barger?
I don't really believe in Brett Beatty much. I know Scott has a little more faith in him than I do.
I saw you spend some big money to get him in the Dynasty League.
I did. I mean, it was what, $17, I think, in the Dynasty League. And like, that's a league where what you add them for on waivers is what your keeper value would be. He might be worth keeping as a $17 player next year. It's pretty unlikely, but in that league, it's a 24-team league. So whatever. Who cares? He's a useful player in that league. Yeah. I'm not sure he matters in most leagues. I guess, okay, that's not fair. If he continues to hit at a 900 OPS level, he will matter in every league. I'm just not sure I have a ton of faith in him continuing to hit at this level. The quality of contact metrics are really good since he came back from AAA, so maybe it's something real, but he's still a platoon bat. I would put Vargas ahead of Beatty for now. I think Beatty's probably the more talented player, but Vargas wasn't a nothing prospect himself, and his quality of contact metrics are pretty good himself. So I think I would put him ahead of Brett Beatty.
And then Barger, third of the 3?
Yeah.
All right, some other waiver wire hitters. Ryan O'Hearn is quietly doing his thing. 3 for 3 with a sock and a shoe on Sunday. He had 3 more hits on Monday. He's hitting 340 with 8 home runs at 968 OPS. And Gavin Sheets finding his power stroke, 4 home runs in his past 5 games. He's hitting 274. He's got an 818 OPS. I think pretty similar players here, Chris. Mm-hmm. First base, outfield, platoon bats. Do you have a preference between the two?
I want to say Sheets is playing a little more versus lefties. It's not much, but he's getting some opportunities. Now that might not actually be a good thing for him, right? Like that could be the biggest reason why his rate stats are worse than O'Hearn's, but
he has started every game since May 6th.
There you go. So I would give him the edge over O'Hearn just for that. But like in a daily league, O'Hearn might be better because you can just put him in there when he's in against righties. He's really good against righties. That's kind of all he is. And I don't think he's a 968 OPS good against righties either. So I'll bet on some regression there as well.
The other name here is Tyler Stevenson. Hopefully, this breakout game on Monday can kind of propel him forward because it's been a really slow start. He went 3 for 5 with his second home run last year, hit 258, 19 homers, 782 OPS, which from a catcher obviously is awesome. 42% rostered right now in CBS leagues. I don't know that number needs to be too much higher. Like if he gets back to the player like a near 800 OPS, then I think we're having a conversation about being a top 12 catcher. But before he gets there, I think, 2 catcher leagues for sure. If he gets hot, maybe he's in a 1 catcher league conversation. Who do you like more between him and Moreno, Chris? Someone who's also picked it up recently.
Probably Stevenson. I just think it's a more well-rounded skill set. Moreno's kind of just a source of batting average. He's hit for good power since the start of May, but he has 4 home runs in May, I think. His career high, I believe, is 7 for an MLB season. He's been around for 3 years, so it's not a huge sample size, but I think Stevenson's the better overall hitter.
All right, let's get into waiver wire pitchers from the weekend and some names in shallower leagues. Between 75 and 80% rostered. Ryan Weathers, strong outing here on Monday, revenge game at the Padres. 5 2/3 innings, 2 unearned runs with 6 strikeouts there. Drew Rasmussen has managed to be more efficient 2 starts in a row. He's gone 6 innings, but still between 75 and 80 pitches in those 2. Grant Holmes was great against the Padres, 7 innings, 1 run with 6 strikeouts for him. The control has looked much better recently. He has a quality start in 4 of his last 5. And David Peterson, great outing against the Dodgers, 7 2/3, 2 runs, 7 strikeouts here. David Peterson has a great slider. I just don't really have much faith in anything else in his arsenal, but to his credit, I mean, he pitches deep into games. He's on a good Mets team and making the most of his opportunity right now. So, Chris, how do you rank those 4? Peterson, Grant Holmes, Rasmussen, and Ryan Weathers?
Weathers, really big gap. I don't know how much I care about the other 3, like ranking them. I guess I'll go Holmes ahead of Rasmussen, but I don't think any of these guys are top 50 pitchers. Certainly. I think Peterson's a little bit behind the other 2. So I'll go Weathers, Holmes, Rasmussen. Just Rasmussen hasn't had the strikeout upside lately as well.
Yeah, his swinging strike rate is way down this season.
Yeah, I don't have any of these guys in the top 60, I don't think, at starting pitcher. So yeah, I think they're all fine. But I think Weathers is the only one I would definitely drop Logan Henderson for.
Mm-hmm.
If you need someone, then okay. But I expect Logan Henderson to be more valuable than the rest of these guys, except in a head-to-head points league. Grant Holmes being a spark, that does give him an edge.
All right, waiver wire pitchers, part 2 from the weekend. Noah Cameron turned in a strong start at the Twins, 6 2/3, 1 run, 8 strikeouts. First time we've seen strikeouts from Cameron. He had 14 whiffs on 82 pitches. Nick Martinez, another quality start up against the Royals, 7 innings, 3 runs, 2 strikeouts. Last 7 starts for Nick Martinez, 2.27 ERA, .96 whip. He's just not getting any strikeouts during that time. And Landon Root has turned in back-to-back quality starts. This one at the Nationals, 6 shutout innings with just 2 strikeouts here. Chris, how are you ranking this group? Noah Cameron, Nick Martinez, and Landon Root.
Probably Root, Cameron, Martinez. If it's a points league, maybe you give Martinez an edge over Cameron. This is, it should be noted, the first time that I think Noah Cameron has really earned the results that he got. He had 2 very good starts to open his career, but it was 3 strikeouts in each start. He had 6 combined strikeouts to 5 walks. Well, 8 strikeouts, 1 walk in this one. That's impressive. That's good, even against a pretty broken down Twins lineup. Not putting their best out there at all times. But 14 swinging strikes on 82 pitches. That's excellent. The changeup looks pretty good. I'm not sure the rest of the arsenal is quite up to it, although, 5 swinging strikes on the slider on 6 swings? That's very impressive. Maybe there's something there that he can lean on more. But overall, I'm not terribly impressed with Noah Cameron. He's not a high priority, despite the very good results so far.
Yeah, I wouldn't have him in that kind of Ryan Weathers, even Will Warren. We've, kind of hyped up a lot recently. I don't think I'd put Noah Cameron in that conversation. I do like him more than these other 2 here. There's a mystery box element, I guess, and good prospect numbers, and the numbers in the minors. I mean, the strikeout rates were much better there. So I mean, maybe this could be a sign of things to come for Noah Cameron and getting those strikeouts. He's home against the Reds this week, so I think that's a pretty fine place to use Noah Cameron.
Sure.
Again this week if you wanted to. Next group includes Jake Irvin, who threw 8 shutout innings with 7 strikeouts up against the Giants. Lucas Giolito, a great outing against the Orioles, 7 shutout with 6 strikeouts. He has 3 quality starts and then 2 awful ones. And Zach Littell, another quality start. It's, him and Nick Martinez. It's kind of the Spider-Man meme. It's, they pitch to contact. They're getting good results right now. Can you bet on that? I'm not so sure. But last 8 starts for Littell, 2.96 ERA, 103 whip, only 28 strikeouts over 48 2/3 innings. Any of these names jump out to you, Chris? Jake Irvin, Lucas Giolito, and Zach Littell.
I suppose Giolito would be at the top of the list, but I actually haven't found him to be particularly impressive so far. Like you said, it's 3 quality starts in 5, but only 1 start, I believe, with more strikeouts than walks, and that was the first one. So more strikeouts than innings pitched is what I meant to say there. So I'm not super impressed. I think the biggest thing is going to come down to the changeup. He hasn't had the feel for it. That's historically been either his best or his second best whiff pitch. And he's got a 16% whiff rate with it. If he can get that back, yeah, I think, Lucas Giolito can be pretty interesting. But on the whole, does not look like a must roster pitcher or anything close to it right now.
Deep leagues, anything to see here? All these names made strong starts this weekend. Slade Ciccone, who is now on the Guardians, Quinn Priester, Edward Cabrera, and Ryan Nelson of the D-backs. Chris, anything to see here on those four?
I think there are some interesting talents. Edward Cabrera actually looked great. I watched this start. The curveball looked phenomenal. Maybe the best I've ever seen it. I was talking to someone the other day about him because he's such a weird pitcher, and it remains the case. It's been true for like 5 years now with Edward Cabrera, where I don't know if he's actually been around for 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, whatever it's been. He's got unbelievable stuff, and he actually commands the curveball and slider and changeup okay, and he just cannot command his fastballs consistently. And that's always been his Achilles heel. He'll have these stretches where he looks awesome, but it's not even a stretch. It's one start right now. So I'll reserve interest in Edward Cabrera. I think Slade Ciccone is probably the most interesting of this group overall, but I'm not rushing out to add him. Like I would rather have Zebby Matthews, who's been a little underwhelming overall. I'd rather have him than Ciccone, but I think it's 14 strikeouts, just 2 walks. He's allowed 4 runs in 11 innings in his first 2 starts. 4-seamer looks better. I think he's changed his arm slot a little bit, and he's getting a couple of inches of induced vertical break on that. That's helping that play up. He's introduced a cutter to expand his arsenal, and the slider and curveball both have really good whiff rates in the early going. So I think Ciccone is pretty interesting. I might have more interest in him than Noah Cameron, actually, despite Cameron having the better results so far.
Mm-hmm. Only problem with Slade Ciccone this week is that he gets the Dodgers. So
yeah, don't want to use him there.
You're not using him there, but if you're in a deeper league, pick him up, see what happens here. Yeah, or if he pitches well against the Dodgers, then all right.
Then it's all systems go. I will say I saw a little bit of criticism of Gavin Williams, and like not so much criticism of Gavin Williams, just that he had like 2 decent starts and now people were starting him against the Dodgers. And I wrote very positively about Gavin Williams in my last write-up of him last week. Don't start these guys against the Dodgers. Don't start most pitchers against the Dodgers. They're just like, you have no margin for error against them. Don't do it.
Yeah. Anything to see here? Part 2. Ryan Yarbrough, a quality start up against the Angels. 6 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts for him. Trevor Rogers got called up by the Orioles to start the doubleheader at the Red Sox. He looked great in that outing. 6 1/3 shutout with 5 strikeouts. Adrian Hauser, could he be a thing on the White Sox? At the Mets, 6 shutout innings with 6 strikeouts for him. Velocity way up once again. And Charlie Morton's first start back in the rotation, a quality one, 6 innings, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts there. Chris, anything to see here with Morton, Adrian Hauser, Trevor Rogers, Ryan Yarbrough?
Okay. A little bit to say about everyone. Morton, I think it's the best he's looked since last season, at the very least.
It is his first quality start since last season.
Yeah. And he had been pitching better out of the bullpen. The command had been much better. I'm not going to rush out and add Charlie Morton at this point. There's way too many interesting pitchers out there who I would prioritize before him. Adrian Hauser, 2 good starts in a row, I believe. I think it's 2 quality starts to open his season. His velocity's up about 2 miles per hour from last year. And we've seen Adrian Hauser be a pretty useful player. He's never much more than useful. And there's a reason he was available for the White Sox to sign in mid-May. So I'm expecting things to probably fall apart for Hauser, but in a deeper points league, he is a SPARP eligible pitcher. So maybe there's something there. Trevor Rogers got a little bit of his velocity back, not all the way to where it was in his one good season now, which was back in 2021. I think we got to go pretty far back. I think he was throwing his sinker less, four-seamer more. Introduced a sweeper, I think, for the first time. Trevor Rogers did, only threw a couple of them. He was really bad at AAA, but maybe he was just working on stuff. And they'll give him another shot here soon. I'm sure he'll get another opportunity before long, given the state of the Orioles rotation. That's a name to keep an eye on. But Yarbrough actually looks pretty interesting right now. He's gone 6 innings just the one time. But he had shown some strikeout upside before this. I think he's probably not going to be I think it's a 5 and dive kind of situation where they're just hoping they get 5 innings out of him every time. And whatever those 5 innings look like, the Yankees are going to be happy with it, at least for now. So I don't think there's a ton of upside, but he is also a sparp. That could be one where, depending on what the next matchups are like, I think Yarbrough is moderately interesting.
All right, before we take our final break, just wanted to mention a news item I just saw here. Logan O'Hoppe apparently exited early in that game. He was hit in the head with a backswing in the 8th inning. They said he's fine. He wants to play tomorrow, but he's, I guess, being evaluated for a concussion. So that is why Logan O'Hoppe left that game. Let's take our final break, and when we return, I've got 3 pitchers. I want to talk about these guys. Let's see what's going on. We'll do that right after this. Let's talk about these 3 pitchers. Kevin Gausman, awesome start at the Rangers, which is just a great matchup right now. They are not hitting the ball at all. 8 innings, 1 run, 6 strikeouts to 0 walks, 15 whiffs on 96 pitches for Gausman. The splitter was awesome in this one. That's back-to-back starts with 11 plus whiffs on that splitter. Last 2 outings, 15 innings, 1 run, 15 strikeouts to 0 walks. I'm not sure if he can keep this splitter going this well, Chris, but this is kind of the Kevin Gausman that we were used to years ago. So I find it very encouraging.
Yeah, and the movement profile on the splitter starting to look more like it used to. He's getting back to, kind of mid 30s in terms of vertical break on his splitter. Earlier on this season, it was more like 29 inches, 30 inches. So getting a little more dive out of that pitch. And it's been excellent lately. Early on in the season, it was pretty easy to be skeptical of Kevin Gausman because he just wasn't generating the kind of whiff numbers he needs to on the splitter. But last start, it was a 48% whiff rate. This start, it was 42%. He really needs to be in like the 40% range to be a very good pitcher. Last year, it was 33.5. This year, it's up to 34.5. Before this start, it'll creep up a little more. Still not quite back to where he was in 2023, and I don't think he ever will be. And my gut feeling is that this is just guys are capable, especially as they get older. You're still capable of the high level performances. It's just doing it every day or every 5th day in this case is much more difficult. I think of there's an interview with Dwayne Wade towards the end of his career. He had like a surprisingly athletic dunk. And they asked him, I think it was Dwayne Wade. It might have been Vince Carter, either one of them. It was, wow, I didn't know you could still jump like that. And he responded, well, it's not the jumping, it's the landing. And it's like that, you're still capable of it. It just takes a little more out of you. And it's harder to do consistently. That's kind of how I feel about Kevin Gausman, where these spike starts, we saw a couple of them last year. I think he had 3 10 strikeout starts. He's had 2 so far this year. He's still capable of these really impressive performances. He just can't do it as consistently as he used to.
I do think that he has earned the right to move up in the rankings. I think closer to a top 40 starting pitcher. I'm eyeballing it now, but I think ahead of names like Bassett has kind of come back down to earth recently.
Yeah, his last couple of starts have been better, but I think they're in the same range. I have Seth Lugo in the same range.
Zach Gallen is one. Asking
that one's tough.
Rest of the season, I think I would say Gausman.
Yeah, I mean, if Gosman's next start is bad, you might say Gallen. So that one's really close, but same range. Yeah, I have Gallen a few spots ahead, but they're both in the 40 range.
Let's talk about Matthew Liberatore, who just keeps performing, this time against the D-backs. 7 innings, 1 run, 4 strikeouts, 2 0 whiffs. Obviously, you want more strikeouts here, but the control has been so good this season. I mean, it's 8 total walks in 10 starts. Another one where I don't know if he can keep that level of strike throwing up, but he has to this point. It's 2 earned runs or fewer in 8 straight starts for Matthew Liberatore. Once upon a time, this guy had pretty decent prospect pedigree here, and maybe he's just figuring it out. Just last week, I moved him inside of my top 50 starting pitchers, Chris, and obviously this start won't deter me. I think he's earned that. I think he's earned the right to be ranked as a top 50 starting pitcher.
Yeah, my most recent update, I had him at 59, but I'm looking ahead, and it's Taj Bradley, Dustin May, Zach Eflin, Casey Mize, Clay Holmes, Sandy Alcantara, Kodai Senga. It wouldn't take much to get him around 50. Even Shane Baz and Gavin Williams, I think those guys have more upside than Liberatore, but I'm not necessarily sure I feel better about either of them than him. So, yeah, it wouldn't take long. I just wish there were more strikeouts. He's throwing a lot of strikes. He's getting a lot of contact. He's avoiding walks, but a 3.4% walk rate is really hard to sustain. That is Tarik Skubal's up there. George Kirby, those guys, Brian Wu, Bryce Miller, maybe, but it's really hard. And so does he have enough going for him if it creeps back to like a 6% walk rate, which would still be good? That a 6% walk rate would still be a very good mark. But if it comes with an average strikeout rate, then it puts a lot of pressure on him to generate a lot of weak contact, which he's done a good job of so far. It feels a little more like Ranger Suarez in the first half of last season, where the results are awesome. The consistency has been a godsend. I think the margin for error here is pretty slim, especially now that the strikeout rate has backed up in the last few starts.
All right, let's talk about Spencer Schwellenbach, who had a mixed start at home against the Padres. 7 innings, 4 runs, but only 2 of those earned. 11 strikeouts to 0 walks here. 20 whiffs on 101 pitches. I mean, this is something we've been waiting for. His first time with more than 6 strikeouts in a start since April 4th, when he, I think it was the double-digit strikeout game against the
Marlins. Yeah,
but he did it in a weird way in this one too. It was more fastballs and cutters, which is what we're not really used to seeing that from Schwellenbach. So look, when it comes down to it, he's got a mid-3s ERA. He has a low 1s whip. He's been really good. I don't know. I want to see something that I could hang my hat on more, I guess, like in terms of the strikeouts, more consistency there. But obviously this one was great.
Yeah, I mean, relative to other pitches, this is a weird way to put it, but let me see if I can explain. Relative to other pitches of the same type, his 4-seamer has probably been his best whiff pitch so far this season. His slider, splitter, and curveball all have better whiff rates than his 4-seamer, but relative to other versions of those pitches, they're kind of average-ish. And the 4-seamer has been very good. 27% whiff rate on a 4-seamer is very impressive. So that's good to see. Look, I think it's good that Spencer Schwellenbach has the ability to find ways to get guys out, regardless of what is or isn't working for him on any given night. Like last year, the curveball and splitter looked like just excellent strikeout pitches for him. And right now, neither really looks like a great strikeout pitch. They look like kind of average. And it's been the 4-seamer that's been carrying a little heavier load. I think that's a good trait. I think it's good that even if you don't have your best stuff on any given day, you can still get guys out. I don't know if he can be like a true ace, but given the attrition at the position, he's pretty close to top 12 again, just because of the guys who have dropped out ahead of him. So I'm fine with Spencer Schwellenbach. He's been a little disappointing, but that's not the same as being bad,
Yeah. I just want, as someone who has been in a lot of spots, I just want more strikeouts. So obviously to get more, get the 11 strikeouts here is awesome. And hopefully Spencer Schwellenbach can build on it. He just, again, he did it in a way that I guess I wasn't really expecting here. Hitters performing well in the month of May. Brandon Lau, 282, 6 home runs, a 913 OPS. All of a sudden, he's up to 10 home runs, a 243 average. That's kind of what you were expecting, I guess, from Brandon Lau. Ketel Marte has been mashing since he returned in May. 263, 8 home runs, 2 steals, a 966 OPS. Trey Turner is locked in, a sock and a shoe on Friday, another home run on Sunday. In May, he's hitting 340 with 4 home runs, 20 runs, 8 steals, and a 908 OPS. Rafael Devers had one of the best games of his career on Friday. 4 for 6 with a double dong, 8 RBI. One of those home runs came off of a position player, but we'll take it regardless. And Vinny P. Baby. Vinny Pasquantino picking things up last 10 games, hitting 425 with 2 home runs and an OPS over 1,000 during that time. So much needed there for Vinny P. I think all these other guys, it's all expected. Pasquantino is someone that was really lagging up to this point, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, it is still a little frustrating that, like, his hot stretch is 2 home runs in 10 games. Like, come on, shouldn't you hit for more power than that?
So he has 8 home runs and 30 RBI. He's on pace for 24 homers and 91 RBI.
That sounds about right. Yeah,
that's probably close to what we were expecting,
Yeah, it's the 258 batting average, lack of doubles. That is funny. That's because 24 homers, 91 RBI, you'd be fine with that at the end of the season. Maybe you prefer 280 than 260, but okay, that's fine. That's interesting. It certainly doesn't feel that way.
Yeah,
for Vinny Pasquantino. But hey, maybe that's a point in his favor that he hasn't been great. He's not living up to expectations overall, and yet he can still find a way to be productive. That's an interesting way of looking at it. I think Trey Turner is pretty interesting here, just because something we talked about a decent amount last spring or this spring, but we haven't really had much chance to talk about him since then, was he only had 19 steals in 121 games. That was very disappointing last season with the new rules and everything. The fact that he had the lowest stolen base pace of his career, I have to imagine. That was disappointing. And at, the big age of 31, maybe he just couldn't be a big base stealer anymore. But we talked about last season, before his hamstring injury, I think he had 10 stolen bases in like 28 games or 30 games or something. And that pace was closer to 40 or 50. And lo and behold, he's stayed healthy so far. And he's on like a 45 stolen base pace. Yeah, we'll take that. That seems to be a good sign that he's feeling okay. That he still has that in his bag in a way that maybe some people didn't expect. So happy to see that. And then Rafael Devers is just like, Alex Bregman gets hurt and it's like, are they going to ask him to play third base? He just keeps slugging. We need to just keep getting like whispers that they're going to ask him to play the field and he can just keep crushing the ball out of spite. That's my theory.
Yeah, they might need him at catcher at something. No, imagine. That's Carlos Narvaez. How about that? I mean, he's kind of taken over as the starter there for the Red Sox. Some other hitting leftovers here. Pete Crow Armstrong, massive game on Friday. 3 for 5 with a double dong, 6 RBI. He's got 14 homers, 14 steals, insane counting stats. I mean, he has blown away any possible expectation. He has been so good. Seiya Suzuki is on fire. 3 hits and a home run in each of Friday and Sunday. 49 RBI leads baseball for Seiya Suzuki. Thought that was interesting. O'Neal Cruz now owns the hardest hit in the StatCast era. A home run on Sunday, which left the bat at 122.9 miles per hour. He's up to 11 home runs and 18 steals. That's O'Neal Cruz. Aaron Judge, 2 home runs, 2 more homers this weekend in Coors Field. He's up to 18 home runs. Awesome counting stats, 1248 OPS. Ellie De La Cruz, big game on Saturday. Sock in the shoe. It feels like Ellie has been disappointing because his batting average is 251. Although for him, that's probably just within the range.
Yeah, that's pretty normal.
But 9 homers, 17 steals, and very good counting stats. Like Ellie De La Cruz is just having a very good season. And 2 more homers for Shohei Ohtani. He retakes the lead at 19.
I do want to point out, one, Shohei and Aaron Judge are so good. It's ridiculous. You did say O'Neal Cruz now owns the hardest hit in the StatCast era.
Oh, he probably already did, didn't he?
He broke his own record. Yes, him. There have been 4 batted balls over 122 miles per hour. Giancarlo Stanton hit one. Giancarlo Stanton hit the other one. O'Neal Cruz hit the third, and O'Neal Cruz hit the fourth. That one, I think, left the stadium on a line, like never got more than like 35 feet off the ground. That was bonkers. He's freakish.
Yes. Pitching leftovers, part 1. All great starts from these names. I'll just read off the name. Chris, if there's anything you want to add, go for it. Paul Skeens, Chris Sale, Zach Wheeler, Crochet, all great starts in the past 4 days.
Yeah, I mean, we took some very mild shots at Paul Skeens. Just because he's not Tarik Skubal doesn't mean he's not awesome. I think he's probably not Zach Wheeler right now. I think Zach Wheeler's a little better than him. There's no shame in being the 3rd best pitcher in baseball. That's pretty good. So I don't want to make it seem like we're down on Paul Skeens. Even without the huge strikeout totals this season, he's been awesome. I don't really have anything else to add on the rest of these guys. They're all great. Crochet, I've been very impressed. Like, his stuff probably hasn't been quite as good as it was last season. He's getting close to like half a foot less of extension than he was last season. He has talked about not having his best stuff at times so far this season, and yet he's still been utterly dominant, going deep into games consistently. I hope it holds up. I'm not going to downgrade him for my concerns that it won't, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he leads all of baseball with 75 innings pitched, which is just so interesting
surprising
for, Garrett Crochet, who was only a starter last year for the first time. So we'll see if he can hold up. Hopefully he does, because the talent still looks really great. Pitching leftovers, part 2, Yamamoto, quality start at the Guardians, 6 innings, 2 runs, 7 strikeouts there. Max Fried dominated the Rockies in Coors Field, 7 1/3, 1 run with 7 strikeouts. Chris Bubich continues his breakout season, 7 innings, 1 run, 9 strikeouts for him. And Jesus Luzardo, another double-digit strikeout effort, 7 innings, 3 runs, 10 strikeouts. Anything to add, Chris, on Luzardo, Bubich, Fried, and Yamamoto?
So these are all, I think, all 4 examples of something we talk about quite often, that I don't think any of them are likely to sustain their current level of run prevention. And I hope that doesn't come off as me criticizing them, because it's not. They just all have sub 2 ERAs. Luzardo, the highest at 2.15. I think you probably add a run to each of these guys' ERA at least. Chris Bubich, you might add 2 runs to his rest of season ERA. That would still be a 3.45 ERA. That would be awesome still. So there might be a sell high window with all 4 of these: Yamamoto, Max Fried, Chris Bubich, and Jesus Luzardo. That does not mean that I think it's unsustainable, that they're not going to continue this. I think all 4 of them are just awesome. So I'm not saying like get out while the getting's good, or whatever the idiom is.
Yeah, no, I think that definitely makes sense for that group there. And then the final 3, Robbie Ray continues to pitch well, 6 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts for him. Mitch Keller, 6 innings, 1 run with 7 strikeouts against the Brewers. And Ryan Pepio, one of the best starts of his season, 7 shutout with 5 strikeouts. Anything on Pepio, Mitch Keller, Robbie Ray?
There was a really good piece in Fangraphs last week about Robbie Ray and just what a weird pitcher he is, and how like nobody has a pitch selection that moves like his. He's just a real weird pitcher. So that was fun. I think he's awesome. I'm fully on board. I think we got the Robbie Ray breakout call right, and I think he's going to be awesome moving forward. I think Keller and Pepio are just guys. I think they're both capable of good starts. I don't expect either to be difference makers moving forward. Keller's been good. He has these stretches. And then he has these stretches that are just awful, and they consistently happen. So I expect one to come up at some point, but he'll be useful more often than not. I think he's probably better than Pepio at this point.
All right, the call to the bullpen. Some updates here from the weekend. And for the Phillies on Friday, Jordan Romano got the 9th inning with a 4-run lead. He gave up a 3-run homer. He was pulled for Tanner Banks, who got the final out for his first save. This was the first time Romano had struggled all of May, pretty much. And then on Sunday, Matt Strahm got the 8th inning for the Phillies with a 1-run lead. He gave up 2 runs, took his second blown save and third loss. My guess is Romano would have probably come in the 9th inning for the save there on Sunday. For the D-backs on Saturday, Justin Martinez got the 8th inning with a 1-run lead. Facing the heart of the Cardinals lineup, he gave up 2 runs on 2 hits, took his first blown save and first loss. I believe he pitched the 8th inning here on Monday as well. So, I mean, it wasn't a save situation. I just kind of assumed that he would get right back into the closer role. And maybe that does happen. Maybe it's just, first couple of times out here. Or maybe they continue to use Justin Martinez as the highest leverage reliever, and he's just not the closer. But we'll see. For the Pirates on Saturday, Dennis Santana got the 8th inning with a 1-run lead facing the heart of the Brewers lineup. He got a hit, gave up a hit, but struck out 2. David Bednar got the 9th inning, picked up his 5th save. For the Cubs on Sunday, Daniel Palencia got the 9th inning with a 3-run lead. He allowed a hit, but struck out 1 for his second save. Then he picked up another save on Monday. Daniel Palencia has the Cubs' last 3 saves. And, I mean, famous last words, but he kind of just looks like the guy. So
for now, yeah, I think he can be the guy for now. I don't think he's particularly good despite throwing hard. So I do expect at some point he'll have the same issue Ryan Presley and Porter Hodge had, and he'll struggle, and it'll be someone else's turn. But, yeah, I think Danny Palencia is the guy right now.
Yeah, he's only 26% rostered. So I think he's the clearest name that has popped up for saves in the past couple of weeks. So definitely a name to go after if you are in need. On Sunday for the Rangers, Luke Jackson entered in the 6th inning with a 2-run lead. Runner on third gave up a sac fly, then a single, and he got out of it. But later in the game, left-handed pitcher Robert Garcia got the 9th inning with a 2-run lead. He allowed a run on 2 hits, but picked up his second save. Robert Garcia only 11% rostered. I don't think Luke Jackson is very good. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the route the Rangers go moving forward.
Yeah, I don't know if any of these guys are all that good is the problem.
Yeah,
but sure, it could be Robert Garcia. Why not?
There was a report from Bob Nightingale that the Rangers might use Kumar Rocker as the closer, which actually kind of makes sense. But the Rangers brass shut that down on Monday. So does not sound like it's true. They had another prospect, Emiliano Teodo, who maybe could be in that mix, but I think he's been hurt in the minors this season. So I don't know.
I understand not wanting to move a guy that you have some long-term hope for into that role, because if they thrive in it, that might just be what they do forever. We've seen plenty of examples of that. I still think they should try, especially if Cody Bradford gets healthy and they have some depth. I get something useful out of Kumar Rocker because I'm not sure he's going to be a good starter this season anyway.
Yeah. For the Marlins on Sunday, somebody named Ronnie Enriquez got the 9th inning with a 3-run lead, and he struck out 2 for his first save. I feel like last week, Chris, you told me to stop bringing up the Marlins bullpen. Is there anything to see here with Ronnie Enriquez?
I don't know. Probably not, but maybe. I think all of the guys in the Marlins bullpen are mediocre. And so if one of them gets hot, like Calvin Fauché was good last year. He's just not a good pitcher in that way, but he was for most of 1 year. And maybe Ronnie Enriquez can be that. I don't really expect it, and they're not a very good team. But if you are desperate for saves, yeah, go ahead and add him. I can't say I expect him to run away with it.
For the Tigers on Monday, Tommy Canley pitched in the 8th inning, picked up his 6th hold, and then Will Vest got the 9th. He allowed a hit, but struck out 1 for his 6th save of the season. And I just wanted to mention for the Athletics, Mason Miller picked up the save on Sunday. He's low-key I mean, the ratios are bad. It's 5.79 ERA, a 1.39 WHIP. I had not realized this. Underlying numbers look much better. The walks are up this season. His BABIP is massive. Still getting tons of strikeouts, but those ratios are bad, Chris.
Yeah, it's been a bad month for Mason Miller. He gave up 5 earned runs in a blown save. Actually, it wasn't even a blown save against the Marlins, I think. Gave up 5 runs in a loss to the Marlins early May. Had another 3 earned run outing against the Phillies a couple days ago. That's kind of it, though. He's given up 12 earned runs on the season. 8 of them came in those 2 outings. He's had 1 other outing with more than 2 runs. Ironically, it's been the White Sox, Marlins, and Phillies. So 2 of the worst offenses in baseball have gotten him. The control's been a little worse, but we're dealing with such a small sample size that in this amount of innings, a 12% walk rate, which is what he has now, versus an 8% walk rate, which is what it was last season. I think that comes down to 2 walks over the course of 2 months. So it's hard to draw too many conclusions from it. He's getting hit harder. The whiff rates are still crazy. The stuff is still unbelievable. I am not particularly concerned with Mason Miller.
All right, to stream or not to stream on Tuesday, we have Tomoyuki Sugano is home against the Cardinals. Brady Singer at the Royals in a revenge game. Cade Horton gets the Rockies in Chicago. We have JP Sears at the Astros. Tyler Anderson home against the Yankees. What do you think?
Yeah. Sugano's been good, but what?
I like Cade Horton.
Yeah, Cade Horton against the Rockies is probably the best option. There are some, like, Kolek was a somewhat interesting streamer for a SPARP, and against Miami, he could have a good start in San Diego, but I don't necessarily expect it. I would say Horton is probably at the top of the list, and then, yeah, maybe Brady Singer, since it's on the road. I could see that. I don't have a ton of, Sugano. Cardinals have actually been pretty tough lately, so, yeah.
And then on Wednesday, we have Clark Schmidt at the Angels, Clayton Kershaw at the Guardians, Landon Roop is at the Tigers, Severino at the Astros, Kyle Hart is home against the Marlins, Shane Smith at the Mets, Noah Cameron home against the Reds.
I think, didn't Shane Smith have a good start against the Mets at some point recently? I don't think we
place. I don't think they face each other yet.
Okay, I don't think you have to look it up. It's not that important. Cade Povich is coming off a somewhat interesting looking start, but I'm not ready to trust him. I think Clark Schmidt at the Angels is by far the best option on Wednesday. I don't hate Landon Rupp and Severino. Yeah, the Astros aren't totally scary. It would maybe change if Yordan Alvarez is promoted by then or activated by then.
Yeah, I like Schmidt for sure. Noah Cameron against the Reds. That game is in Kansas City. I could be down with that. And then
sure, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. One of like Roop or Severino, but I do like Schmidt and Noah Cameron the most of that group. We are going to wrap there. For Chris, I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. And we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.